I have a biochem degree and I can't find a job.
So I was like the romantic dream of move out west and work on a ranch. Right?
You are listening to EMS with your hosts, Erik Axene and Matt Ball.
Well, welcome to the EMS podcast. We've changed our look up a little bit.
Yeah, we have.
For those who have...
Studio 2.0.
Studio 2.0, that's right, yeah. A little bit of a changed look. So if you've watched our podcast in the past, you'll see a difference. But we're kind of updating everything, some new content, some new look to our studio, all that kind of stuff. So if you like our page, subscribe to it, hit the like button. If you're interested, and we're going to talk more about this in a minute, but we also do provide continuing education for first responders, EMS providers.
I hate calling it continuing education because what
Continuing
we do
experience.
is not continuing. I mean, it's Con Ed, but it's not really.
Right. It's checking
totally
the
different.
Exactly. So, but we'll put a link to our website in the description box. And so, for those of us, maybe somebody has just watched us, they're just seeing us for the first time, or maybe they've seen us a little bit on social media. Introduce yourself. What's your name? Who are you? What's your background? Give them the rundown of Erik Axene. Axene.
That's my name. Yeah, that's funny. That story. You remember that when I played football? Put acne on my jersey, and I had an acne problem at the time too.
Yeah. Well, you can at least change. Your name isn't Acne. My last name is really Ball.
Well, I mean it's a cool name. I like it. Erik is my name. I'm an ER doctor I started at lots of different jobs. I'm gonna take you on a timeline. Only because it's been a lot of fun adventures.
You're kind of a Renaissance man.
Well, I didn't say
You've
that.
You've kind of done it all. I know. I said it.
You know what? Fast forward to college, I was a decathlete, right?
Right.
I like doing a lot of things. I'm an ER doctor. I like doing a lot of things.
Yes.
To be a decathlete, a good decathlete, if you're mediocre at a bunch of stuff, I mean, if you're pretty good at running, pretty good at jumping, pretty good at throwing heavy things, and you're willing to try to pole vault, you can be a pretty good decathlete.
Did you pole vault? Mm-hmm. Did you really?
I did.
They make those poles that strong?
Oh boy, call me fat again. I was so bad though at pole vault. I mean, I muscled it over that bar,
I'd love to see a video.
And it was a big old pole, and I hardly bent the thing because I just
really
it was. When you're a decathlete, you don't have to get a ton of points on every event. I mean, just by completing the event, you get some points, and when you're nominally successful at all the events, even if you don't score a ton of points, it's an accomplishment just to complete a decathlon.
Yeah. And
I was probably the worst decathlete on our team. In high school, I was a state championship 400 runner, and I qualified in the shot put. I was a state championship wrestler, so I was that athletic, right?
Yeah.
But when I went to college to be a decathlete, this is one of the premier programs in the country, and I was literally the worst guy on the team. They had scholarships. I was just a walk-on, and I had fun, but I was not very good.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was fun though to compete.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think the decathlon, though, within the track and field world is kind of like how I've lived my life. I've just done a lot of different things, and I wouldn't say I've been the best at anything.
It's like jack of all trades, master of none kind of a thing.
Yeah. And that same thing with an ER doctor, right? Yep. A little different in the ER world where I feel like my niche is emergencies. So that's exciting.
Yes.
But to be an ER doctor here in the U.S. and in most countries, you've got to know a little bit about everything.
Oh,
I like to say that I'm a mile wide and an inch deep, whereas like an orthopedic surgeon's a mile wide or an inch wide and a mile deep, right? So anyway, when I was in college, I was a biochem major, and then I wanted to go to medical school, but I decided to take a year off. My plan was to play my guitar. I love playing the guitar.
Yeah.
And
we got a Takamimi back here.
Yes, it is.
Garth Brooks guitar, isn't it?
I should pick it up and play it right now.
You should pick it up and play it right now.
But I always loved that, so I thought I'd do that for a year before I went and sacrificed my 20s to medicine, because it's really what you do.
I bet your parents loved that decision.
Well, yeah, no, they probably did. And I did too, because I wanted to break.
Yeah.
I was getting a little burned out. Anyway, so I went... it's been kind of a long story. I thought maybe I'd find a job at like a Dick's Sporting Goods or a sporting goods store. At the time in California, I was looking for a job. It was called Sport Chalet. But they weren't hiring. I couldn't find a job. And I applied to work at a laundromat across the street from where I was living. They didn't hire me. And they had a help wanted sign too.
They were actually hiring? They just didn't hire you?
Yeah.
Did you come in with like disheveled clothes or something?
No.
You were all wrinkled up. They're like, we're not hiring that guy.
They were super nice, but I think they wanted somebody who was bilingual and could speak.
That makes sense.
And so I was pretty discouraged though. And I was talking to
You can't get hired on at a laundromat.
with a help wanted sign outside. It's funny because
The most menial job
I'm
you
going
can think
out
of.
and looking for jobs at these places I wanted to work.
Right.
As an athlete, I thought a sporting goods store would be kind of a fun place to work, and I could help people find their soccer shoes or whatever.
Right.
But I could not find a job. And I also applied at a guitar store down the street where I was living. Not a guitar center, but like a little mom and pop, little guitar shop. They weren't hiring, and but then I said, well, I guess the backup plan is going to be me. I'm going to go down. If there's a help wanted sign at a laundromat, I'll certainly get that job, and I couldn't get that one either. I have a biochem degree, and I can't find a job. So my friend Peter, great guy, dear friend, he said, Erik, have you ever thought about teaching? And so I looked into it, and I found out as a substitute teacher, I could make $100 a day, and I could work when I want to. I was paying $175 a month in rent where I was living at the time.
In California.
And I didn't need a lot of money.
You couldn't rent a tent in California right now for that much money.
It's true. So I listened to my friend Peter. I signed on as a substitute teacher, excited that I could work when I want to, and I didn't need to work a ton of days.
Right.
I could spend my time having fun, playing my guitar, and hanging out with friends.
Yeah.
The HR department there saw my biochem degree and they saw at another district they were looking for a science teacher. So they asked me if I wanted to interview for a full-time science teaching job. And so I ended up getting the job.
Nice.
You want to hear a funny story, actually? The interview was at 8 a.m. with the superintendent, and at the previous night I went out to a Dodger game. I think it was a Dodger game, and I was super late. I slept in. The interview was at 8. I woke up at 10 a.m.
Oh.
And I called the superintendent of that school district and said, I am so sorry. I slept in. How can you hire a teacher that can't be on time for an interview? But hey, I'm sorry for the inconvenience I caused.
Yeah.
See you later.
Yeah.
He says, hold on a second. Why don't we meet for lunch? And so we did. We met for lunch, and I got the job. And I asked him later. We ended up developing a friendship. The reason he hired me was that I was honest.
Yeah.
And I just
made a mistake and owned it. And
and one thing I didn't do, which I've taught my son, and I teach people, I was like, you make a mistake, just own up to it, take
100%.
responsibility, and
100%.
apologize.
Yep.
Don't start with the blame game.
Yep.
I actually legitimately had a good reason, but I didn't share that.
Yeah.
I just apologized. I did share it later that the power went out, but I should have had a backup alarm or something. Yeah. But the power went out. This is before iPhones, obviously.
Right.
And I woke up with the blinking.
Yeah. Was this before Timex watches?
Oh, you know
that weren't on time.
Yeah. Well, I probably was wearing literally a Timex watch, and I didn't use it.
The Iron Man.
Anyway, little life lesson: be honest.
Yep.
Take responsibility
That
when you
little
make a
life
mistake.
lesson can go a long way.
So I ended up getting a job, and I remember competing against some of these guys, USC grads with teaching degrees. I had no teaching degree.
Yeah.
But there was something he liked about me with being honest in the way I just carried myself, things I learned in kindergarten and things I learned from my parents, and I got the job, and I loved it.
Yep.
I ended up doing that for almost a decade, teaching chemistry and physics primarily, and I just fell in love with it. And then I went to medical school later in life. While I was doing that, I was a volunteer firefighter as well. I was also at that time a water ski instructor before I was a teacher. That summer after I graduated, a lot of fun jobs, a lot of fun things. And then while I was playing football in college, actually, I was also a tattoo artist. I designed tattoos. I think I've shared that.
Well, you weren't a tattoo artist. You
I like to say that.
Oh, okay.
Tattoo.
Well, to the tattoo artists out there, they might say, "Did you ever actually tattoo anybody?"
How do you define tattoo artist?
Oh, that's somebody that does tattoos.
Does tattoos.
Yeah, if you're not actually
I've never done a tattoo.
You are a tattoo designer.
That's what I've always said tattoo artist because it sounds sexier. I'm being honest. I'm not a tattoo artist.
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily untrue.
Based on my definition of what the word means, I guess.
There you go. There you go. Subjective.
And then in residency, I was a tattoo removal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've done the whole spectrum.
Is that the right word? I don't know. Anyway, I used a derm laser to remove tattoos. That was fun. But then after medical school, went to residency, became an ER doc, and then practiced in the Palm Springs area for a little while, kind of the San Bernardino area, Riverside, and then moved to Texas about 10 years ago. I've been practicing medicine out here as an ER doctor and as an EMS medical director. And, one of the great jobs I got to have out here, we've talked about this before too, is being an airway management doctor for the Dallas Cowboys. Yep. Standing on the sidelines with the team, being prepared for an airway emergency, right? Yep. And that's kind of the part of our job, is to be good at these emergent procedures. It's like 99% boredom, 1% sheer terror, right? That's exactly right. So that was a great opportunity. I love doing that. And I resigned from that job to do this. Yeah. To be able to really dedicate time into creating education experiences that really translate to improved patient care. So I'm not actually on the sidelines anymore, right? And I'm still on staff technically, as an ER doctor, board certified there. But, the impact that we can have in education, you and I, in our team of educators in teaching is pretty cool because it has a multiplicative effect. And, you teach one paramedic something, that effect of what you teach is on their patients that they see. And you start multiplying those students. I mean, we've got thousands of students all over the country. You start multiplying that by how many patients they see. Right. We have a great impact. And that's why we do what we do. Yeah, yeah. So that's me in a nutshell. I mean, there's so much more I could share. I'm a dad. I'm a husband. Yep. Been married now for almost 25 years.
And we met because you were our medical director for my fire department. So that's how we met.
And actually, I'll just say I have 2 kids and 2 dogs, and a favorite job of my life is being a husband and a father. Yeah, that's amazing. That's good. And then a friend with friends like you. I mean, that's amazing joy of life. So to transition to your introduction, I just want to say one of the coolest things. I mean, I always admired you. You and I had some cool patients together. We have had some cool patients. But you came. No, I think I called you actually, right? No, I think your wife told me. Oh yeah. You got to talk to Matt. Yeah. And I said, I think you're right, I do. Yeah. Because I didn't understand what you had envisioned for EMS education and what you were doing actually with your medical minutes and a lot of the stuff you were passionate about with the FTO program and all that was perfectly aligned with the vision I had as a medical director. Right. Your perspective, my perspective, perfect alignment. Yep. And I'll never forget that phone call. I was actually sitting at my kid's school waiting in a car line talking to you. I remember as clear as day thinking, this is amazing. Yeah. It's like things happen for a reason.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So that was very special to me. And that's kind of where this all grew from.
That's right.
I mean, that's very exciting.
Yeah,
so.
I remember Donna telling me about it.
Yep. Yep. So there you go. You got the balls in your court now, sir.
Oh, my story's not quite as neat.
It sure is. Everybody has a story.
Everybody's got a story. So I did not grow up firefighter, paramedic, registered nurse, but I did not grow up at all with aspirations of being a firefighter. Wasn't even on my radar, not even a little bit. Actually, I thought about being a police officer for a long time. My brother was law enforcement, federal law enforcement for a long time. So I got into actually writing. I kind of, like you, had an unusual path. Did not go to college out of high school, was not ready for college, was not mature enough. Kind of just floated around trying to figure out what am I going to do with life, right? Got into horses. I grew up in Illinois. Didn't really want to stay in Illinois. I knew I wanted to go out west. Ended up going to Colorado, worked on a ranch in Colorado for a while. Really enjoyed that.
How did that happen? How did you get interested in horses? I mean, how did you make that transition from Chicago to Colorado? I mean, what happened there?
The honest to goodness truth was I got into country music when I was in high school.
Awesome.
Garth Brooks was like brand new when I was a senior or a freshman in high school. Oh yeah, I mean that was all hot. You remember? We're the same age. Yeah. So all that was new. So I got into country music when my dad. But
that's cool.
I got into country music, then kind of got into the country lifestyle, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was like the romantic dream of move out west and work on a ranch, right? Mm-hmm. So I actually answered an ad in Western Horseman magazine to work on a ranch. That's a true story. I sent in an application, got the job, worked on a ranch in Estes Park. It was a dude ranch.
Estes Park. I've heard about it. Never been there.
Beautiful place. And I spent the summer taking rides through Rocky Mountain National Park. Beautiful. I mean, it was a great summer job when you're a 20-year-old kid, you know.
John Denver, man.
Oh, man. 100% John Denver.
Rocky Mountains.
I listened to Rocky Mountain High as I pulled into Colorado with my little S10, yeah.
Reminds me of scene in Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, yeah. Except I actually made it to the Rockies.
Very good.
So I did that. Ended up moving out to Washington State. Had some friends that were in the horse business, and moved out to Washington State. Worked with them. Learned all about the horse business.
Wait, hold on a second. How did you get from Colorado to what happened in Colorado to get you to Washington? Or was somebody?
Yeah, so I had a friend from Illinois, a family friend, that they had moved out to the state of Washington. They had family out in the state of Washington.
Okay.
So prior to me moving to Colorado or working in Colorado, they had moved from Illinois to Washington. They were out there. And they did horses.
Two beautiful states.
Oh, man. I mean, I lived in some of the most beautiful parts of the country, arguably. Colorado, like Estes Park.
Yeah.
Came home summer of 97, said I ain't got nothing else to do, packed up my bags, and drove from Illinois all the way to Oak Harbor or Woodinville, Washington, just north of Seattle. Got a job with their horse trainer, trained horses for a while, did some different things, met my wife. She did horses, got married in 2000. So I've been married 24 years now.
I got married in 2000 as well.
There you go. What month?
July.
Oh, September.
No, sorry, August. It was August.
Oh, month before us.
We got married twice.
Okay.
Because my wife, she's a New Zealand Canadian
citizen, that's right.
So we got married
as a green
Justice
card
of the Peace, and then a year later we at a church. But
got it.
August of 2000.
Interesting. I didn't know that. It was that 1 month off. So I met my wife, got married, did the ranch thing for a little while, and then it was kind of like, I don't know, the horse deal up in Washington wasn't real big.
Right.
So long story short, I said, if I'm going to do this, I had some odd jobs just trying to make ends meet, looked at different options, applied to some different sheriff's office. I did work security for a while and worked with some police officers and that kind of work, and I just kind of felt like, I don't know if this is for me. I don't know if this really is my line of work. So long story short, ended up getting a job down in Texas, working on some ranches, did the horse thing for a couple years down here. My wife got pregnant, and I was like, I need to have a big boy job. Like making $1,000 a month isn't cutting it. I have no insurance. Like this, it's time to figure out what I want to do. Had a friend of mine that was a volunteer fireman, and went over to his station one time, ran a call, really enjoyed it. Was on an ambulance. It was a bad wreck. And I was like, hey, this is kind of neat. Like this, I think I always kind of had in my heart, whether I knew it or not, that I kind of wanted to do something of service, right? I definitely know that now. I didn't really know that as much.
Military was in there for a little while.
Military was in there. Probably the biggest regret I have in my life is not joining the military. Wished I could go back and smack my younger self and say go in the military, because I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think the military is a great option for young men and women who graduate high school. Not everybody's ready for college right out of high school, right? Yeah. And that's okay. I think the military is a great place for some young people. I could have really used the military to grow up. But anyway, so got into the fire service, went to rookie school, got very lucky that I got hired on by a really good department here in North Texas. Been with that department. It'll be 20 years this year.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah. So super. I got very lucky. It's very hard. It's a struggle to get hired on, especially back then. It was right after 9/11. Everybody wanted to be a fireman. Everybody wanted to be a fireman. So it was really a struggle walking into rooms with 500 other dudes to take a test, and you're thinking, I'm not going to get looked at by these guys.
I left this out of my story, but I applied to Orange County Fire Authority, and I made the A band, which is the first band they hire from. Yep. And I got accepted to medical school before I got a job in the fire service.
That's
so
crazy.
I ended up going to medical school. So competitive.
Yes, super competitive. But much more than it was much more then than it is now. It's still competitive, but it's totally different. But yeah, so I got hired on with that fire department. Been there 20 years, love it. And then I don't know. Let's see, it would have been I got my nursing degree in 2018, I think it was. So I was teaching at a local college. That's kind of where the whole teaching thing started.
Awesome.
And then they said, hey, they got a bridge program.
Which college were you?
Right here locally.
Local. Okay,
yep.
Cool.
Yep. And then they had that bridge program for paramedic to RN.
Yeah.
And so I thought, well, heck, this isn't going to hurt to take this course. So did that, got my RN degree, did some nursing stuff. But like you said, started doing some teaching with our fire department. Have done a lot of work with our FTOs in my department. Very passionate. I feel like there's a big gap in, as a firefighter, the reality is, and this is starting to change. The reality is that 90%, whatever the numbers are nationally, 70%, whatever. But the majority of what we do in the fire service, the modern day fire service, is EMS, right? But I feel like it was a little lopsided with training. That the majority of our training would be 90% fire and 10% EMS, and that 10% of EMS wasn't really that good quality. Our fire training's phenomenal. We go and we put our gear on and we pull our hose and we get our tools out and we really hands-on. That's really how firefighters learn. They're very tactile learners. Yeah. And then we sit in a class and we listen to some doctor come in and blah, 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 a PowerPoint at us, right? Yeah. And most firemen don't learn that way.
Yeah.
And, for me, I just saw a gap in that learning spectrum. Like, why are we not balancing this out? It should be even. I'm not negating the fire training. It should be even. They're both jobs are super important, right? Yeah. And so that's where you and I kind of joined forces.
I'm glad you said that because I left something out. When I was teaching, I got my master's degree in education. It was interesting how things happen for a reason. I didn't know this, but there was one year, and I'm not going to say where I was teaching, but it was in the LA area, very difficult school. Yeah. It was one of the toughest, certainly the toughest year of teaching I've had.
Sure.
Most of the time as a teacher, it was mostly content and teaching and the experience of learning. Right. And then a small percentage of classroom management. But I was teaching in another place where it flipped.
Yeah.
And in retrospect, I think I learned a lot because I could not go up there and just PowerPoint them, right?
Yeah,
they eat me alive.
Yeah, like firemen would. Yeah, 100%.
Well, and I actually think that firemen and firewomen, firefighters, are maybe the toughest group to teach.
They're a tough group.
But I remember that year, though, as I was actually taking courses to get my master's degree, I was also studying learning styles. I was studying a lot of the educational kind of theories and philosophies in making an effective classroom, a learning environment, and engaging the learners. There's a lot of really interesting research and strategies. Yeah. And so I happened to also be in this cauldron of difficulty where I really had to do what I was learning. Yeah. And I think that year of actually creating learning experiences where, I'm blowing stuff up and building a bed of nails to teach pressure. I mean,
Your Christmas balls?
Christmas balls. Those types of things, though, created engagement, and that's the only way I knew how to teach. Yeah. And I think some of that carried over with as a medical director. I couldn't get up there and do death by PowerPoint. Sometimes PowerPoint's a good vehicle, but it also has to be mated with something else that engages the learner. Yeah. So anyway, that's here. That's Axene CE right there. That's what we're building.
Yep. Yeah, unique approach to EMS CEs. The content is all the same. Any CE provider is going to pretty much tell you the data is the data. The science is the science, right? Yep. I mean, with some little bit of subjectivity to it, a little bit of opinion thrown in there. But for the most part, like everybody agrees, like fluid management and antibiotics in a septic patient is pretty much the standard of care.
Yeah, it is. That's right.
And so it's the deliverable, right? So the people riding in the car are the same. It's what kind of car are you driving in? Are you driving in an old whacked out jalopy car, or are you driving in a Ferrari, or are you driving in a souped up? And so the delivery of what we do is definitely unique.
Yep.
It's definitely unique. Our podcast style, like what people are seeing.
This is how we teach.
This is how we teach. Yep.
We don't look at the camera as much because we're
on our podcast. When we're teaching, we look more at it. Yeah. But I think that people have said they like that podcast style format. They like the fact that we have 2 instructors for pretty much. I think there's only one lecture I can think of that we did not have 2 instructors.
Think of
2. Okay.
I did sepsis by myself,
and I did
you did EMS ops.
Yeah.
But otherwise, it's always been.
So 98% of our 99%
more
of our,
than about 90, 98, 99.
Yeah. Not the 2 provider levels. We have another instructor, Adam, who's a PA, super smart guy, former paramedic, firefighter paramedic, super smart guy.
Nate,
yep.
Philip, Corinne.
Oh yeah, we got a big team. Yeah. Huge team.
Good. We have a great team, but you and Adam and I are the primary.
Right. Just because we're not afraid to get on camera every 5 minutes.
An analogy I like to use is fishing. And we've talked about this, right? Mm-hmm. You put all the technology into your rod and reel. And
that's right.
The boat.
It's all about
you scope out the fishing spots. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's like some of these companies out there and that are putting out great content, like you said. It's like they're fishing without bait on the hook.
Yeah.
Right now we're planning that lecture where we're going to be out in the ocean, or maybe like the one we did with the rattlesnakes, or whatever. You fill in the blank. We do so many things. Every lecture is something unique, some hook, and that'll engage the learner. So it really becomes education.
Right.
What's going on in a lot of fire stations right now? They should call continuing licensure, or continuing knowledge. For licensure. I mean, it's not.
Well, I think what they call it is checking the box.
Checking the box.
Yeah. And I get it. You get it. Like we get it. You got to check the box.
You got to check
right?
the box.
You have to check the box.
Keep your license up.
I think the big thing that differentiates us from other CE providers is that we are creating content with the learner in mind.
Yep.
We're not just creating content to check a box. We are creating content that we know. And it's been proven through, we've studied it. We know that our learners are more engaged. Mm-hmm. If they're more engaged, they're going to retain more. And if they retain more when they're out in the field and they have a patient, which ultimately is our goal, when they have a patient in the back of the box and they're trying to figure out what's going on, our hope and prayer is that, I remember those crazy guys who bone drilled themselves.
We sharpen their skills.
Yes. They figured it out and move on. And that, again, is ultimately our goal with
You're right.
stuff.
I like how you redefined it. I mean, obviously we teach with our students in mind, but when we teach, we imagine the student who we're teaching to is treating our family, right? If you imagine, Matt, that your wife is being treated by the paramedic watching this lecture on sepsis, and you imagine that medic managing, that EMT managing, or paramedic, whatever, managing your wife, if you can get into that frame of mind when you're creating that lecture or that education experience, you're going to put more effort into it.
Absolutely.
And so it's really all about the patient.
Yep.
We imagine that as family. Yep. That's really good.
Well, stay tuned. We will be dropping more podcasts. Every 2 weeks, we will be putting out a new podcast for now. Might get more frequent. But for right now, every 2 weeks. So again, subscribe to our channel, like our videos. If you're listening to this on like Apple Podcasts or something, make a comment. That helps our podcast out, and we really appreciate it.
Share the word. I mean, if you like what you see. I mean, if you don't like it,
send a link to your friends, your department. The more people and again, we're doing this to get the education out there. We want more people to be better informed. So, see you on the next one.
Be safe out there.
Thank you for listening to EMS, the Erik and Matt Show.